The following slides were used to supplement a public oral presentation for potential NEH applicants to the Awards for Faculty at HBCUs program. They are not intended to provide complete information about the program, and they do not constitute an official statement of NEH policy. For current information about this NEH program, including eligibility requirements and the dates of deadlines, please consult the Notice of Funding Opportunity posted on the NEH website. Hello, and thank you for joining us for this webinar about the National Endowment for the Humanities Awards for Faculty at Historically Black Colleges and Universities program. The Notice of Funding Opportunity for the program is posted, and applications can now be submitted. The deadline this year is April 9th, 2025. Notifications will be made in late December 2025 for projects starting on January 1st, 2026 or later. I'm Mary Macklem, a Program Officer in the NEH Division of Research Programs. My colleague Jackson Foster, Program Analyst in the Division of Research, and my colleague Gwen Yates, Program Analyst in the Division of Research, also work with this program. We're happy to answer any questions you may have. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us at facultyawards@neh.gov at any time. We will be offering a live question and answer session. It is currently scheduled for Friday, March 7th from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can register for the live Q&A on the program page on the NEH website. Any updates or changes will be announced on the web page. Here's an overview of the webinar. I will start by providing information about where to find application materials and give an overview of the program. I will also address who is eligible to apply to this program, the scope of the program, provide guidance on the types of projects the program can support, give examples of some previously supported projects, take a look at additional program details, address how reviewers will assess your application, and describe the contents of an application. At the end of the webinar, I'll address how to submit your application through grants.gov. If you find you have questions about any of the webinar content, please feel free to reach out to us at the facultyawards@neh.gov email address. You can also attend the live Q&A session to be held in March. The first section of the webinar will show you where to find all of the program information and application materials. On this slide, you will see a link to the NEH Awards for Faculty program page on the NEH website. The web address appears at the bottom of the screen, and there's also a QR code that will take you to the web page. Every grant opportunity at NEH has a program page where you will find an overview of the program, a list of important dates such as draft deadlines and application deadlines, and additional links with more information. In 2025, the Notice of Funding Opportunity has been combined to include 3 NEH programs: the Awards for Faculty at HBCUs, Awards for Faculty at HSIs, and Awards for Faculty at TCUs. Please read the NOFO carefully and follow the guidance for the program to which you are applying. If you scroll down on this page, you will find an overview of the program as well as a list of what's new in 2025. This slide again shows the Awards for Faculty at HBCUs program page and some of the available resources it provides. The web link where you can find this page is also again on the screen. The Notice of Funding Opportunity for this program appears on this page under Step 1. Everything that I speak about in the webinar today comes directly from the Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO. We recommend that you read the entire document in full, as it provides information about every aspect of the program, such as eligibility, funding amounts, project types, what you need to prepare in order to apply, and how to submit your application. Further down on the Awards for Faculty program page, you'll find additional resources. We have an FAQ as well as a link to projects funded through this program, so that you can get a sense of the types of projects that have been successful. You'll also find several sample application narratives, and in some cases, work plans and bibliographies. These narratives and bibliographies and work plans are not meant to be an exact model of what you should prepare in order to apply, but rather a collection of examples showing the many and diverse ways that applicants from a range of fields in the humanities have crafted a successful application. Each of these applications received funding. The next section of the webinar provides information about the program, including eligibility, scope, project types, activities, and products, funding restrictions, and deadlines. First, let's take a look at what the Awards for Faculty program is. The program seeks to strengthen HBCUs by encouraging and expanding humanities research opportunities for individual faculty and staff members. Awards support individuals pursuing scholarly research that is of value to humanities scholars, students, and/or general audiences. So the program is focused on humanities research conducted by individuals. To support faculty and staff at HBCUs, the program is designed to be flexible in both project types and award periods. You can apply to do humanities research in support of a wide range of outcomes, such as a book project, institutional goal or interest, or an undergraduate course revision. And you can adapt the NEH work period to fit with your other institutional responsibilities. You can apply to work between half-time and full-time on the NEH project or in combination. I will say more about these aspects later in the presentation. Now let's look at eligibility requirements for the program. You can find out more about eligibility in Section C of the NOFO. The program is open to individuals, full-time, part-time, adjunct, and retired faculty and staff affiliated with an HBCU. If retired, you must not be affiliated with another institution at the time of application. The program is open to U.S. citizens and to foreign nationals who've been living in the U.S. for the 3 years preceding the April 9, 2025 application deadline. No advanced degree is required. However, you may not be currently enrolled in a degree program. If you have satisfied all the requirements for a degree and are solely awaiting its conferral, you must include a letter from the Dean of the conferring school or your department chair attesting to your status as of the application deadline. With regards to institutional eligibility, on the right side of the slide, if you're unsure if you are affiliated with an eligible HBCU, you can check with staff at your institution or click on the link provided in the NOFO, which takes you to the U.S. Department of Education's listing of HBCUs. This slide addresses the scope of the program. It's important to know that the program supports humanities research in all areas of the humanities, regardless of geographic or chronological focus. If you're working at an HBCU, for example, your project could stem from any humanities field and topic of interest. While your research might relate to your institution's mission or goals, it does not have to do so. In recent competitions, for example, the NEH funded projects in the areas of Latin American literature, British literature, U.S. history, and art history. Projects can be designed for various audiences, whether other scholars, undergraduate students, or the general public. Remember that this program supports individuals conducting humanities research. NEH has additional programs for 2 or more individuals working together, and for projects more focused on humanities pedagogy and curriculum development. You can reach out to us at the Faculty Awards at NEH.gov email box if you have questions about whether your project fits best with this program or another NEH program. Because this program supports individual researchers, please be aware that funds go directly to the individual faculty or staff member. Awards support between 2 to 12 months, full-time equivalent. You can opt to work part-time. And the award amount is $5,000 per full-time month, up to $60,000 for 12 full-time months or the equivalent. Your period of performance must be continuous. Note, no cost sharing is required and no indirect costs are allowed. Given the scope of the program regarding research in the humanities, I wanted to give you some additional context about how NEH defines the humanities. The NEH and the NEA were created by Congress in 1965. Our definition begins with the agency's founding legislation. The humanities fields on this slide come directly from the National Foundation on the Arts and Humanities Act of 1965, and it reads as follows, quote, "The term humanities includes, but is not limited to, the study of the following: language, both modern and classical, linguistics, literature, history, jurisprudence, philosophy, archaeology, comparative religion, ethics, the history, criticism, and theory of the arts, those aspects of social sciences which have humanistic content and employ humanistic methods, and the study and application of the humanities to the human environment with particular attention to reflecting our diverse heritage, traditions, and history, and to the relevance of the humanities to the current conditions of national life." End quote. We thus have a capacious understanding of the humanities at NEH. A bit more about project types. As I mentioned previously, a key feature of this program is flexibility in both project types and work plans. Let's look at the types of projects that the program can support. You will notice from this page that all projects must be based on humanities research in literature, philosophy, history, and so forth, the disciplines indicated in the previous slide. However, humanities research can support a variety of project goals and outcomes. Like the NEH Fellowships program, with which some of you may be familiar, this program supports research in primary and secondary materials leading to the development of books, peer-reviewed articles, e-books, digital projects and resources, translations with annotations or a critical apparatus, critical editions, or other scholarly resources. However, projects can also support institutional or community goals or interests and draw on institutional or community archival collections, for example. Or projects can improve an existing undergraduate course revision, including the development of humanities resources, for example, oral histories, identification and preparation of previously unavailable primary sources, or newly compiled historical or literary collections. Please note this program does not support development of new courses. The course must have been taught previously. Also, only undergraduate course revisions, not graduate, can be supported through the Awards for Faculty at Hispanic Serving Institutions program. So here are some examples. A faculty or staff member might collect oral histories in order to develop scholarly tools such as language dictionaries or databases, or to contribute to an undergraduate course revision. Or a faculty or staff member might use the unique archives of a university for a project where an institutional goal or interest. In recent competitions, for example, the program funded a scholar to research and prepare materials for an art exhibition on campus. Another recent project involved researching place names, leading to a revision of an undergraduate course in Spanish language. And a number of recent projects resulted in scholarly books and peer-reviewed articles. If you have questions about a project idea and whether it fits the goals of this program, contact Faculty Awards at NEH.gov or 202-606-8200. Again, as I mentioned previously, the program supports a wide range of projects, all founded on humanities research. A wide range of humanities research methods and activities can be supported, including archival research, the collection and interpretation of oral histories, and ethnography. Or you may be working from a home or university office on editing, writing, and revision. Look now at the print and digital products, the outcome of award support. Undergraduate course revisions could result. If you're proposing that project type, remember the focus of the program is research rather than pedagogy. Also, the award is an individual award, so award funds support your research, not the work of students or other collaborators. And the course must have been taught previously. This program does not support new courses. In addition to course revisions, other results could include articles, monographs, translations, editions, and other interpretive tools. For course revision projects, you might devise a way to disseminate the project more broadly, whether for other course sections on campus or to other universities. Products centered on community or institutional goals might result in other types of print or digital materials. One example might be research and writing of an exhibition catalog for an art or historical exhibit on campus. In addition to what NEH can support through this program, certain activities cannot be supported. Please see the complete list of funding restrictions in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, Section D6. You may not use awards, for example, to revise a textbook, develop teaching methods, conduct educational impact assessments, write a how-to book or self-help book, create an artwork or piece of music, and so forth. This program also does not support the promotion of a particular political, religious, or ideological point of view, or advocacy of a particular program of social or political action. Here are 3 recent book projects whose authors received support through this program. The first book, authored by Rhea Doss at Prairie View A&M University in Texas, is titled Women at Odds: Indifference, Antagonism, and Progress in Late Victorian Literature. Professor Doss received 12 months of full-time support. Professor Burtis English, a professor of history at Alabama State University, authored the second book pictured here, Civil Wars, Civil Beans, and Civil Rights in Alabama's Black Belt. Professor English received 12 months of half-time support for this book project. The third book, titled The Female Vampire in Hispanic Literature, an edition and translation of text, was edited and translated by Megan De Virgilis, a professor of Spanish at Morgan State University. Professor De Virgilis received 12 months of full-time support for research and writing related to the project. Given the flexibility of project types funded in this program, I've not pictured here, but want to remind you of the possibility of humanities research leading to other types of products, not only book projects. In recent years, for example, recipients at HBCUs received awards for a course revision and article project on the history of architecture and public health in Baltimore, and a project to write an article and relaunch a scholarly journal hosted by the Scholars Institution. You can look at the recently funded projects link on the program page to see the full range of projects that have been supported. Here are some important deadlines and dates for the program this year. The application deadline is April 9th, 2025. The NOFO explains how to submit your completed application package through grants.gov. Be sure to allow enough time for any technical difficulties or other issues. We recommend submitting well before the deadline in case of any difficulties. Late applications will not be reviewed. Decisions will be announced in December 2025. The earliest possible start date for your project is January 1st, 2026. You can wait to begin your project all the way up until September 1st, 2027, so you have a large window of time. In addition, NEH staff will, in some cases, read and respond to draft narratives and work plans. Drafts must follow the format specified in the NOFO Section D. They must be submitted to the Faculty Awards at NEH.gov email no later than February 14th, 2025. New this year, staff will only review drafts submitted by applicants affiliated with eligible institutions that are not classified by the Carnegie classification system as doctoral universities, very high research activity. Please see the NOFO for full information about this. The third section of the webinar will provide an overview of the application materials and briefly touch on the review criteria for the program. Full information about these topics appears in the NOFO. This slide shows the table of contents to the Notice of Funding Opportunity. This part of the webinar looks particularly at Section D and E. Please see the NOFO for full details on this content. A reminder that application files must be submitted to grants.gov as PDFs or they will be rejected. The application package is available on the program page, and the link, once again, to the program page is listed here. Here is a screenshot from the NOFO, Section D2. The NOFO provides an application component table, a list of the items that you need to submit by the April 9th, 2025 deadline as part of your application package. The table lists the application components in the left column. The next column in blue indicates how to name your files. The third column in orange indicates if the item is required, recommended, or conditionally required. Please pay close attention to these so that your application is complete and can go through review. Anything required, for example, must be submitted in order for your application to be eligible. The last column refers to page limits. Notice that we have mandatory limits for several of the attachments. Do not go beyond the allowable page numbers, even just by a line. Please remember that applications that exceed page limits or violate format instructions will be considered non-responsive and will be rejected from further consideration. The bottom of the table lists the required grants.gov forms. You can write and assemble all of the attachments in advance offline if you wish. The grants.gov forms, however, will need to be completed in grants.gov. You will attach your attachments, PDFs of your documents, to the grants.gov form that is called Attachments Form. Here is a slide with the criteria for the program. These criteria appear in Section E of the Notice of Funding Opportunity. You should keep this prominently in mind when writing your proposal. All reviewers will assess your project using these criteria and only these criteria. Grant writing is its own form. Don't forget that you can consult the sample application narratives on the program page to see how other applicants have addressed these 5 criteria. The first criterion pertains to the intellectual significance of the project for the humanities. Tell your reader what your project is about and why it's important. Explain what it will contribute to your specific field in a way that a humanities generalist can understand. You should also situate your project in the broader context of humanities research and knowledge. What is the state of the field on the topic, for example, and how will your project contribute to the field? Criterion 2 considers the quality of the conception, definition, organization, and description of the project and the clarity of expression. Generally, peer reviewers find that a well-written, clear application is a predictor of the quality of the planned publication. So writing a good abstract and narrative is important. Propose specific research questions and explain the methods, concepts, and approaches you will pursue. Criterion 3 is about the work plan and its feasibility. In Attachment 2, you should provide a detailed work plan broken into 2 to 3 month segments. This can be a chart, a list, or a narrative for the work plan, but make sure it's clear. Your work plan should clearly state whether you are seeking part-time, full-time, or a combination of support. Don't forget that your work plan must be continuous. Criterion 4 asks reviewers to consider the applicant's preparation for the project. If a new research area for you, explain how you came to it and your skills for doing so. Be sure to address your language competencies, knowledge of archives, and so forth. The last criterion considers the likelihood that the project will be completed and the dissemination and access plans. Mention the expected publication and other outcomes of the project. If you're proposing a book project, consider providing a description of the proposed book, such as the chapters. If you have a publisher or series in mind, you can mention that. If you're proposing an article project, indicate the likely length of an article and venue for publication. If you're proposing a course revision, indicate when you expect to teach the revised course and how you plan to disseminate your research results. Now let's take a look at some of the required attachments. Attachment 1 is the narrative. What should it include? This document explains your project to reviewers. The narrative should address 4 areas which are described in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. You will notice these pertain to the criteria for the program: significance and contribution, organization and methods, competencies, skills, and access, final product and dissemination. Overview: significance. It's very important to make this case. Identify the audience for your project and explain why it's significant to the humanities. State your thesis. Provide scholarly context. What work has already been done on the topic? What's the state of research? How will your work contribute? Will it build on, disagree with, or provide a new interpretation? If you're proposing an undergraduate course revision, explain how the research relates to revising the course, such as the readings and methodologies. Address the significance of the course in your teaching and for the institution. Also provide information on how many times the course has been offered, the number of students typically enrolled, and so forth. When possible, explain the broader significance of the project beyond the individual course. 2. For organization and methodology, explain your concepts and terminology, and how the final product will be organized. If you're proposing a book project, you can provide a brief chapter outline. If you're proposing a dissertation revision, you must state so in the narrative, and you must also explain how the project moves beyond the dissertation, whether there are new chapters, new primary sources you've discovered, new research you've conducted or plan to conduct, and so forth. Also provide information about the methodologies that your research employs. 3 is competencies, skills, and access. Address your level of competence in any language, skills, digital technology, or other special skills needed for the project. Also address any arrangements you've made or will need to make in order to access archives, collections, institutions, and so on. Lastly, you should describe the final product and your dissemination plans. How will you reach the audience that you intend to reach? How will your project results be disseminated to them? Provide a web link if there is a website. In the case of a course revision project, explain if there are plans to expand the number of sections offered, replicate the course on other campuses, or otherwise disseminate the results more broadly. You can also see the application samples on the program resource page. This attachment should not exceed 3 pages. Attachment 2, the work plan, is also a required attachment. In this attachment, provide a schedule for the period of performance. Explain the tasks you plan to accomplish, as well as the timeline. State clearly whether you plan to work part-time, full-time, or in some combination. You can present your work plan as a table, a chart, a list, or in prose, but it must not exceed a single page. As I mentioned earlier, a key feature of this program is flexibility. It's intended to be flexible so you can continue to teach or do administrative work, as well as work on the NEH-funded project, should you wish to do that. However, in this program, applicants may work between half-time and full-time on a project, or in some combination. Please remember the period of performance must be continuous. The award tenure is between 2 to 12 months, full-time equivalent. If you are proposing part-time work, it is especially important that you specify the fraction of time you will devote to the project and indicate if you will receive course releases and so on. What does NEH mean by part-time? Part-time work is defined by NEH as at least 50% of your normal schedule. As an example, if your usual teaching and administrative load is 4 classes per semester, and you apply to pursue the NEH project half-time, your teaching schedule must be reduced to 2 classes per semester. Administrative loads, etc. should also be reduced accordingly. And the NEH stipend is reduced accordingly if you work part-time on your project. Please note that you must not have course overloads or work overtime during the NEH period of performance. Also, while you do not need to complete the project during the period of the award, you should indicate to reviewers how and when the project will be completed once you have returned to your regular duties. Other topics to address in the work plan include the part of the project that the award will support. If you will not finish the project during the period of performance, state when you expect to complete it. You can indicate when you plan to submit it for publication, or if you're proposing a course revision, specify when you plan to offer the course. Remember that your work plan should not depend on factors outside your control, such as the receipt of outside readers' reports from a publisher. If you plan to submit your manuscript to an editor or publisher before the end of the period of performance, explain what additional work the project will require after you submit the manuscript and why it merits support. Now let's take a look at Attachment 3, the bibliography attachment, which is also required. This attachment must not exceed 1 page. So what should you include on this 1 page? The bibliography should likely include both primary and secondary sources that relate directly to your project. You can include works that pertain to both the project's substance and its theoretical or methodological approaches. Peer reviewers will use the bibliography to assess your knowledge of the subject area. If you're proposing work with archival materials, indicate which archives hold them. This slide pertains to the resume attachment, Attachment 4, another required attachment. This attachment must not exceed 2 pages. Here is a partial list of information to include. Current and past positions. Provide information about your education, list degrees, dates these were awarded, and titles of theses, dissertations. Include relevant awards and honors. If you've received any prior support from NEH, be sure to list these awards, the dates that you held them, and any products that resulted, such as books or articles. Also list your publications as well as other relevant professional activities and accomplishments. Don't forget to include your level of competence in any relevant foreign languages or digital skills. Here, once again, is the application component table from the NOFO, a listing of the attachments that you will need to submit to apply. Please refer back to the Notice of Funding Opportunity, Section D, for full details on all of these attachments, as well as guidance on what each attachment should include. I discussed the first 4 required attachments in the preceding slides. Additional attachments are listed in the application component table. NEH recommends submitting the confirmation of institutional support at the time of application. This document should be on letterhead confirming institutional support and signed by an institutional representative, like staff in the Office of Sponsored Research, a vice president, or dean. It should indicate that the institution will allow you to accept an awards for faculty fellowship if offered, even though it might reduce your teaching load. While NEH encourages you to submit this document at the time of application, if recommended for funding, you must submit it before NEH will issue an award. The application component table more clearly indicates which attachments are required, recommended, or conditionally required. If you are proposing a digital project, please see the new strongly recommended Attachment 9, Data Sample and Data Management and Sharing Plan. If your institution does not appear on the U.S. Department of Education's Eligibility Matrix 2024 as a Hispanic serving institution, but you anticipate that your institution will appear on the Eligibility Matrix 2025 as an eligible HSI, and you wish to apply, you must provide specific documentation in Attachment 10. Applicants whose institutions do not appear on the Eligibility Matrix 2024 as eligible and who do not provide the required documentation in Attachment 10 will be declared ineligible. There are some additional conditionally required attachments. Depending on your project and your situation, you may need to submit these or you may not. Applicants proposing additions, translations, digital projects, proposals including visual materials, and proposals to improve existing undergraduate courses, for example, should submit additional materials. These appendices should not exceed the page number per item. Other conditionally required documents include the conferral of degree document or explanation of delinquent federal debt. Please be sure to consult the Notice of Funding Opportunity for full details on these attachments. If you are missing any required or conditionally required attachments, your application will be declared incomplete and will not go through the review process. So, if you have any questions about what you need to include in your application package, don't hesitate to call or email program staff prior to the deadline, as we are here to help. There are also several web forms that you will need to fill out in grants.gov. These forms are also required. This slide provides more information about the grants.gov forms listed in the application components table and some of the information you should have ready before you begin filling out these web forms. You will need, for example, a project summary and a title for the Form for Federal Assistance, SF-424 individual. I suggest you compose your abstract and title in advance of filling out this form so that you have it ready to go when you're preparing to submit your application package. Full details about titles and abstracts are provided in the NOFO. You will also need to have ready the contact information for 2 referees. You will be prompted to enter these in the grants.gov Supplemental Information for Individuals form. NEH will contact referees after the program deadline. using the email addresses you have provided, so be sure to enter these correctly. Also, please be aware that you can and should monitor whether referees have submitted letters after the referee deadline. You'll receive a link to do so from NEH after you have submitted your application. The last section of the webinar provides an overview of how to submit your application to NEH. You must submit your application through grants.gov. So, once you've written and compiled all of your attachments, saved them as PDFs, and checked your application package for completeness, page limits, and so forth, you'll be ready to submit your application package. A link to grants.gov and the application package, as you may recall from the opening slides, is on the program page. Even before you've started or completed the attachments, we encourage you to create a login.gov account and also register with grants.gov. You must create a login.gov user account in order to register and log into grants.gov. Plan to do this at least a month before the program deadline. And I would suggest doing it even now to be sure that you're set up and ready to submit your application. After you create your login.gov user account and register with grants.gov, you must create an individual applicant profile in your grants.gov account. If you do not, the red Apply button will not allow you to begin applying. To set up this individual profile, log into grants.gov, click on My Account, then Manage Profiles, and then you'll be able to proceed to create an individual profile. This slide shows you the Awards for Faculty grant opportunity as listed in grants.gov. There's also a QR code that will take you to this web page. Here are some of the steps you should go through as you submit your application. You can access the application package through a link on the program resource page. The link takes you to grants.gov. Be sure to apply to the correct opportunity. We have separate opportunities for HSIs, HBCUs, and TCUs. Lastly, submit your application early to allow time for technical problems. Sometimes grants.gov gets very busy at the application deadline and there might be a delay, or you might forget to submit a required attachment. Give yourself plenty of time to check the details and correct any problems. Once you've submitted your application package, check again to see that you submitted correctly and that your application package is complete. You should receive several confirmation emails from grants.gov. Grants.gov will also notify you if your application has been rejected due to formatting issues, such as attachments that are not PDFs. Be aware, however, that you need to confirm the mandatory page limits and content of the attachments, as grants.gov will not alert you to problems in these areas. Therefore, allow sufficient time for this so that you still have time before the deadline to fix the problem and resubmit. Lastly, use the grants.gov helpline if you have any technical problems. 1-800-518-4726. Remember, applications submitted after the deadline will not be reviewed, even if only by a minute or two. Remember also that NEH has a few policies of which you should be aware. NEH will not consider applications submitted after the deadline. Applications missing any required documents or conditionally required documents will be considered incomplete and will be rejected from further consideration. Applications that exceed page limits or violate formatting instructions will be considered non-responsive and will be rejected from further consideration. Thus, to reiterate, pay close attention to the details. Include only attachments that are required or conditionally required or recommended in the Notice of Funding opportunity. Follow the page limits and call us if you have any questions prior to the deadline so that we can answer any questions that you might have. And finally, this screen summarizes some of the resources available to you as you prepare your application. Please see the program website, as this is where you'll find the materials as noted above, the Notice of Funding opportunity, sample applications, FAQ, and a link where you can find information about previously funded projects. First and foremost, I urge you to read the full Notice of Funding opportunity. It's lengthy, but all of the materials that you need to submit are fully described in it. In addition, the NOFO includes all of the other details that was discussed in the webinar, such as eligibility, deadlines, required attachments, page limits, criteria, the review process, and instructions about how to submit your application to grants.gov. A reminder that if you are at an eligible institution, you may be able to submit a draft narrative and work plan for staff feedback, due by February 14, 2025, to the Faculty Awards at NEH.gov email box. Check the NOFO for restrictions and follow the guidance. Drafts are optional and have no bearing on the review process. However, applicants have found the staff comments useful in the past. We'll do our best to get these back to you with our comments at least 10 days prior to the application deadline. A reminder that NEH staff are very happy to speak with you or correspond over email so we can answer any questions. Please reach out. Here is our last slide for this webinar on the Awards for Faculty program. Please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions. You can reach me, my colleague Jackson Foster, and my colleague Gwen Yates by emailing facultyawards@nih.gov or by phoning the main number of the NEH Division of Research at 202-606-8200. And don't forget that another way you can connect with us is at the live Q&A session planned for March 7th, 2025 from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please check the program page for any updates or changes to this date and time, as well as to register. We hope to see many of you there. We hope this has been an informative webinar. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see your applications.